Hey everybody, Thomas here. Welcome back to SFF180. It is Monday, the 28th, Memorial Day here in the States, and time for a long overdue proper mailbag. 2 weeks I've been away from the mailbag, and so now you guys are going to get all of that material that has built up over these last 2 weeks. This is going to be a big one, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time with preamble or announcements. One thing, though, next week on the 4th, whether or not there will be a mailbag on the 4th is a little bit up in the air at this moment. I have some surgical stuff happening at the end of this week. It's nothing serious, it's nothing bad. You guys don't need to worry about me, I'm fine. But it's just a thing that's happening, and it might kind of have me laid up over the weekend and maybe not in the mood to record, but maybe by Sunday I'll be fine and I'll feel like it. So either way, so we'll say 50-50 on next Monday for mailbag. But in any event, we're going to go ahead and get through these. The longest mailbag I've ever had in the past was something like 41 minutes. I don't quite want to repeat that this time, although I will say that is, to this date, my most viewed mailbag ever. I think people see those, the really long ones, and they're like, wow, this must be lots of books. And so they're happy to watch it, even if they watch it at like 1.5 speed. Hey, I don't care, as long as you guys watch, all right? So let's get into this massive pile, over 20 envelopes. Let's just do it. First one looks like something new from Saga Press. It's a couple of somethings from Saga Press, a couple of arcs, and this first one is for a book coming out July 17th. This is the arc for Constance Verity Saves the World by Ailey Martinez. He writes lots of humorous fantasy. This is a sequel to The Last Adventure of Constance Verity, which came out a couple of years ago. I should probably get a review of that up as well. But I think the whole premise here is that Constance Verity has all these magical abilities that can save humanity, but it's still just really kind of annoying. Let's see. Hard enough to maintain a relationship without having to find time to save the world, but when her sort of ex-boyfriend, the son of one of her top 10 arch-enemies, comes to her for help, the timing couldn't be worse. From malicious superbrains to sinister ocean gods to an unreasonable amount of assassins, Connie might finally be in over her head, and the curse of steadily worse bad luck isn't helping much. So you see, it's that kind of thing. I get the impression it's a spoof of, you know, urban fantasy of the 2000s, basically. And next up, we have something coming out on October the 2nd. This looks like a new series from Charlaine Harris, the creator of the Suki Stackhouse, or whatever the hell her name was, the True Blood series. She has a new series, evidently, of which this is the first. It's called An Easy Death. We have a cowboy woman here on the cover holding an automatic in each hand with the fingers on the trigger. Bad trigger discipline. Do not show this to Mike Cole. He will go insane. But let's have a look at this. Okay, a taut new thriller centered on a young gunslinging mercenary, Lisbeth Rose. Alrighty then. Set in a fractured United States in the southwestern country, now known as Texoma. Okay. A world where magic is acknowledged but mistrusted, especially by a young gunslinger named Lisbeth Rose. Battered by a run across the border to Mexico, Lisbeth takes a job offer from a pair of Russian wizards to be their local guide and gunny. For the wizards, Gunny Rose has already acquired a fearsome reputation, and they're at a desperate crossroad. Even if they won't admit it, they're searching through the small border towns near Mexico, trying to locate a low-level magic practitioner, Oleg Karkarov. The wizards believe Oleg is a direct descendant of Grigory Rasputin. Oh my. And that Oleg's blood can save a young Tsar's life. Okay, well that sounds like it's an interesting sort of, you know, recipe of ingredients to construct a new fantasy out of. An Easy Death, I guess, starts this new series of Gunny Rose on October the 2nd by Charlaine Harris. Next up, big old random penguin box. And this is a hardcover of Nightfall. It's the newest book in the Secret History series by Simon R. Green. I get the impression these are urban fantasies. The gimmick here is that all of the titles in this series have been kind of spoofs of James Bond titles, although I don't know if the books themselves are spoofy or, you know, just straightforward UF. Haven't really dug into this series yet, to be honest with you. But this one is Nightfall, so maybe that's, I don't know, takeoff on Skyfall or something like that. Let's see, it's the epic final Secret Histories adventure. Well, there we are. We have now wrapped up the series, and that explains why it's fatter than most of them. Where the Druids will take on the most unexpected of enemies, the inhabitants of the Night Side. Okay, which is another Simon R. Green series, so he's doing a crossover with himself. How very cute. Okay, the Druids are all about control, making people do what they're told for the greater good. The Night Side is all about choice, good and bad and everything in between. The Druids want to make the world behave, the Night Side wants to party. They were never going to get along, so I suspect they're going to have maybe a bit of a scrap in this book, but Nightfall, I guess, is a June hardcover. There's no actual sell sheet in here, so no exact date, but a June hardcover, I am guessing, from Ace Books. Before I forget about it, there were 2 additional books that I grabbed when I was in Pittsburgh as part of the freebie table, when they were like breaking down all the freebies to do whatever is done with the leftover ones. And I picked up a couple of more books that I did not add to that big Nebula book haul video that you guys have been watching. That's been up for about a week now. So I thought I'd show you those now. First of these, pretty cool here. This is August 28th. Sees the release of Victoria Schwab's City of Ghosts. This is a ghost story. This is a middle grade book. And I've flipped through it. Looks like it'll be a pretty quick read, even for a middle grade. But I guess it's a middle grade ghost story. Ever since Cass almost drowned, okay, she did drown, but she doesn't like to think about it, she can pull back the veil that separates the living from the dead and enter the world of spirits. Her best friend is even a ghost. So things are already pretty strange, but they're about to get much stranger. When Cass's parents land a gig hosting a TV show about the world's most haunted places, the family heads off to Edinburgh, Scotland. Here, graveyards, secret passageways, and ancient castles teem with restless phantoms, and when Cass meets a girl who shares her gift, she realizes just how much she has to learn about the Veil and herself, and she'll have to learn fast. The City of Ghosts is more dangerous than she ever imagined. So there we go, Vicky Schwab with a middle grade, City of Ghosts, on August, the 28th. And this is one a lot of people will be happy to see. This comes out July 10th. It is Spinning Silver from Naomi Novik, and this is a follow-up to Uprooted. I don't know if it's a direct sequel. Let me have a look. Well, no, it's an imaginative retelling of the Rumpelstiltskin fairy tale. So it might not even be a follow-up to that. Or it's thematically a follow-up. You know, she's doing these new takes on these fairy tales, as it were. Miriam is the daughter and granddaughter of moneylenders, but her father is not a very good one. Free to lend and reluctant to collect, he has left his family on the edge of poverty until Miriam intercedes. Hardening her heart, she sets out to retrieve what is owed and soon gains a reputation for being able to turn silver into gold. But there's always a but. When an ill-advised boast brings her to the attention of the cold creatures who haunt the wood, nothing will be the same again, for words have power, and the fate of a kingdom will be forever altered by the challenge she is issued. Channeling the heart of a classic fairy tale, Naomi Novik deftly interweaves 6 distinct narrative voices, each learning valuable lessons about sacrifice, power, and love into a rich, multi-layered fantasy that readers will want to return to again and again. And you can return to this one, or at least visit it for the first time, on July the 10th. Spinning Silver comes out from Delray Books. Okay, back to proper mail. This is a little something from Tor, and it's been hand-addressed. So I wonder what that could be. Well, this looks cute. This must be the season for lighthearted space opera romps. I don't know what it is. But this one is called Gatecrashers. It's by Patrick S. Tomlinson, and it is described as a lighthearted science fiction novel about first contact, exploration, and desperately trying not to screw up. From Patrick S. Tomlinson. Okay, this is coming out June 26th, it says. On humanity's first extrasolar mission, the exploration vessel Magellan, or as she prefers, Maggie, discovers an alien artifact. Deciding that finding advanced alien life is too important to ignore, Captain Allison Ridgway chooses to return to Earth, while ordering her crew to reverse engineer technology far beyond anything back home. Meanwhile, at Mission Control, the government struggle to maintain the existence of aliens a secret, while also combating bureaucracy, the military-industrial complex, and everyone else who wants a piece of the science that could skyrocket humanity into a new technological golden age. Little does everyone involved know that the bumbling of a few highly evolved apes in space hasn't gone unnoticed, and the people of Earth have put themselves on a collision course with a far wider and potentially hostile galaxy. Okay then, Gatecrashers arrives June 26th by Patrick Tomlinson from Tor Books. Moving on down, we have a white envelope, but I know this one's not a Tor book because there's a little sticker here that says Disney Books, which is different, so might be a little middle grade something. Let's have a look. It is, and it's the sequel of something that they have sent me the first one of. It's buried somewhere in my stack. Admittedly, I don't really keep up with the middle grade as much, perhaps, as some of you might like. But this is called Twilight of the Elves, and it is the second volume in a series called The Adventurers Guild. The authors are Zach Loren Clark and Nick Eliopoulos. Clever tongue-in-cheek writing and breathtaking twists abound, it says. This comes out November the 13th from Disney Hyperion. Zed, Brock, and their friends say, well, spoiler. Okay, middle grade readers will be obsessed with Twilight of the Elves, where the stakes are raised, the action is breathless, and the dangers will stop even the bravest of hearts. I guess that's all you need to know. Okay, but this comes out November 13th for all you MG fans. Check it out. Yeah, sometimes sell sheets for sequels are like just spoiler minefields. You gotta tread carefully. This is, let's have a look, something from Random Penguin. And this is Lifelike. It's a new book by Jay Kristoff, and it is due to come out tomorrow in hardcover from Random House Children's Books from Knopf. Okay then, let's see. It's a series starter that's part Romeo and Juliet, part Terminator, and all adrenaline. Okay, Jay Kristoff, of course, being half of the team who wrote the Illuminae trilogy, and he has written the Nevernight books, which are some pretty edgy fantasy I'm led to understand. Let's see, not YA, those books. 17-year-old Eve isn't looking for trouble. She's too busy looking over her shoulder. She's on the local gangsters wanted list. And the only thing keeping her grandpa alive is the handful of credits she just lost to the bookies. Worst of all, she's discovered she can somehow destroy machines with the power of her mind. And a bunch of puritanical fanatics are building a coffin her size because of it. If she's ever had a worse day, Eve can't remember it. The problem is, Eve has had a worse day, one that lingers in her nightmares, and the cybernetic implant where her memories used to be. Her discovery of a handsome android named Ezekiel, called a lifelike because these androids resemble humans, will bring her world crashing down and question whether her entire life is a lie. Eve will trek across deserts of glass, battle unkillable bots, and infiltrate towering megacities to save the ones she loves, and learn the truth about the bloody secrets of her past. Okay then, sounds like science fiction, action, 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 all the way by Jay Kristoff. Lifelike, tomorrow, the 29th. This next one is one that I'm pretty excited to see. This looks like it's going to be one that's going to be part of my 12 Days of Halloween celebration later this year, guys. This is called Corpse Paint. The author is David Peake. It comes from Word Horde Press, who brought us books like John Langan's The Fisherman and Beneath by Christy DeMeester. It's a new book from them, and let's see. It's a short novel, but it seems pretty cool. It says, it's been years since the groundbreaking debut of black metal band Angelus Mortis, and that first album, Henosis, has become a classic of the genre. A howling primal scream of rage and anger. With the next two albums, Fields of Punishment and Telos, Angelus Mortis cemented a reputation for uncompromising aggressive music, impressing critics and fans alike. But the road to success is littered with temptation, and over the next decade, Angelus Mortis' leader, Max, better known as Strigoi, became infamous for bad associations and worse behavior, burning through sidemen and alienating fans. Today, at the request of their record label, Max and new drummer Roland are traveling to Ukraine to record a comeback album with the famously reclusive cult act Wisdom of Silenus. What they discover when they get there will go far deeper than the aesthetics of the genre and the music they create. Anti-human, anti-life ultimately becomes a weapon into itself, equally inspired by the fractured nightmarish novels of John Hawkes, the blackened dreamscapes of cosmic pessimist philosophy, and the music of second-wave black metal bands. Author David Peake's Corpse Paint is an exploration of creative people summoning destructive powers while struggling to express what it means to be human. So there you go. It's a black metal horror novel, Corpse Paint, and James Chatham is going to love this, I'll tell you. But David Peake, and it is available now from Word Horde Press. Okay, this is the arc for a book called Keepers. The author is Brenda Cooper. who has written some pretty interesting science fiction, but has never really quite broken out into star status yet. So hopefully, that will change eventually. This is the second book in a series called Project Earth. The first book was called Wilders, which I don't think Pyre actually sent me. I hope it didn't get, lost in the transition when I was moving or something. But, well, anyway, I can just get one from Barnes & Noble or something. But anyway, let's see. The general premise, because again, I don't want to give away too much for spoilers' sake. This comes out the 31st of July. And two sisters, one from a megacity and one from the wilderness, work together to protect the wilderness and the reintroduction of wolves from a group more interested in private property than public good. So this is sort of like Anthropocene science fiction. It has environmental themes, what have you. It shows us an Earth, it says, that is the result of profound climatic and ecological changes. Nobody's better, says Nancy Kress, than Brenda Cooper at creating a detailed and innovative future. Interesting, a complex and plausible look at what we might face someday and how we might respond. Well, that just makes me want to read Wilders and get caught up with all of this. But anyway, Keepers is out on the 31st of July from Pyre Books. I'm doing a pretty efficient job of burning through these. See if we can keep that up. Okay, next one, a little envelope from Random Penguin. This is by Christina Henry. It's a book called The Mermaid. It is probably not about Sam from Sam's Nonsense, but let's have a look. No, in fact, it is from the author of Lost Boy comes a beautiful historical fairy tale about a mermaid who leaves the sea, only to become the star attraction of history's greatest showman. Once there was a mermaid called Amelia, who could never be content in the sea, a mermaid who longed to know all the world and all its wonders, and so she came to live on land. Once there was a man called P.T. Barnum, a man who longed to make his fortune by selling the wondrous and miraculous, and there is nothing more miraculous than a real mermaid. Amelia agrees to play the mermaid for Barnum and walk among men in their world, believing she can leave any time she likes. But Barnum has never given up a money-making scheme in his life, and he is determined to hold on to his mermaid. Oh, golly. All right. So some shades of, perhaps some Gollum and the Genie influence there. But Christina Henry, The Mermaid, there was no sell sheet in there, so I'm going to imagine this is a June release from Berkeley Books. And next up is this tiny little mass market paperback from Dahl Books that comes out in June. It's another Tanith Lee reprint. They're going through all the Tanith Lee stuff. And this is a little book of hers. It's very small, very thin, called Companions on the Road. And let me see, this, if memory recalls, I think it's from this is from the mid-70s, and it's basically two novellas. It's Companions on the Road and The Winter Players, essentially. And it's, let's see, there's the Chalice, Kashiel the Brigand, Felus the Rogue, and Havor the Gallant. A night of blood and crimson flames reunites them in a grim siege, a fabulous theft, and a journey fraught with peril. For their prize is the jeweled and golden cup of Avilis, and their road will not end until the forces of darkness destroys them or yields to a far greater power. So that kind of fantasy, and it is now re-released by Dahl Books in June. Companions on the Road by Tanith Lee. I gotta say, they've given that a really grim, dark cover. I remember the original cover. I've seen that book before. The original cover was all like, we're on horses and we're frolicking through the... It's a bit brighter and a little bit more, upbeat looking than that with a skull moon and everything. But anyway. Okay, this is next up. Now I've got a few packages here that look to be from small presses. This one is from World Weaver Press, whom I've heard from before. And so let's see what they've sent this time, because before they've sent some pretty interesting things. Yeah, first off, this is an anthology called Solar Punk. It's ecological and fantastical stories in a sustainable world. Okay, and this is coming out on the 7th of August. Okay, and it is, as you say, it's an anthology of, I guess, Anthropocene science fiction from various small press authors. So this could be an opportunity to check out some new authors, if you like. Imagine a sustainable world run on clean and renewable energies that are less aggressive to the environment. Now imagine humanity under the impact of those changes. This is the premise. Brazilian editor Gerson Lodi Ribeiro. Once again, Thomas just stomps all over the pronunciation of something. I'm quite sure that was awful. Anyway, that's the premise that this editor proposed, and these authors took the challenge to envision hopeful futures and alternate histories. God, do we ever need hopeful futures. The stories in this anthology explore terrorism against green corporations, large spaceships propelled by the pressure of solar radiation, the advent of photosynthetic humans, and how different society might be if we'd switched to renewable energies much earlier in history. And so this has actually been out in Brazil. Yeah, these are Brazilian authors. And these have all been translated from Portuguese. Very cool. All right, well, I'm glad to have this, actually. So Solarpunk arrives on August the 7th from World Weaver Press. And then right here in the same package, we have Glass and Gardens Solarpunk Summers. Okay, and this actually comes out earlier. This comes out on June the 5th. And it's an anthology of optimistic science fiction, edited by Serena Ulibarri. Okay, and I don't think these are in translation, but it says Solarpunk is a type of optimistic science fiction that imagines a future founded on renewable energies. The 17 stories in this volume are not dull utopias. They grapple with real issues such as the future and ethics of our food sources, the connection between technology and nature, and the interpersonal conflicts that arise no matter how peaceful the world is. In these pages you'll find a guerrilla art installation in Milan, a murder mystery set in a weather manipulation facility, and a world where you are judged by the glow of your solar nanite implants. From an opal mine in Australia to the seed vault at Svalbard, from a wheat farm in Kansas to a crocodile ranch in Malaysia. These are stories of adaptation, ingenuity, and optimism for the future of our world and others. For readers who are tired of dystopias and apocalypses, these visions of a brighter future will be a breath of fresh air. And this one, it comes out on the 5th, so very soon. Glass and Gardens Solarpunk Summers. Speculative fiction. This is real science fiction. Like the sound of it. Very cool. From World Weaver Press. And then finally in that envelope is something called The Grandmother Paradox. And this is apparently the second book in the Place in Time series. It's a little novella. I don't know if I was ever sent the first Place in Time novella. But in any event, the author is Wendy Nickel. This comes out July the 10th. It says, when Dr. Wells, the head of the Place in Time travel agency, learns that someone's trying to track down the ancestors of his star employee, there are few people he can turn to without revealing her secrets. But who better to jump down the timeline and rescue Elise from being snuffed out of existence generations before she's born than the very person whose life she saved 100 years in the future? But Juliet Argent isn't an easy woman to protect. The assistant to a traveling magician, she's bold, fearless, and has a fascination with time travel of all things. Can the former secret agent Chandler, with his knowledge of what's to come, keep her safe from harm and keep his purpose there a secret, or will his presence there only entangle the timeline more? That's cute. It sounds kind of, very much like a Connie Willis kind of riff, with her time-traveling stories. Alrighty then. It follows the January 2018 release, The Continuum. Well, maybe I do have that somewhere in this horrible pile. Oh, I'll have to dig it up and see if I do. Alright then, but this comes out, The Grandmother Paradox, on July the 10th. That is nice to discover, like some cool stuff from a small press. Always nice. Now, here, speaking of another small press, this comes to me from the wilds of Canada. Well, not really the wilds, it's from British Columbia. A little company called Promontory Press. It says, Stephen Erickson Arc Enclosed. Okay. Yeah, apparently it really is that Stephen Erickson. And it's a book called Rejoice, A Knife to the Heart. Okay. Well, thank you. Let's have a look. It says, imagine a first contact without contact, and an alien arrival where no aliens show up. Okay. Imagine the sudden appearance of exclusion zones all over the planet into which no humans are allowed. Imagine an end to all violence from the schoolyard bully to nations at war. Imagine an end to borders, an end to all crime. Imagine a world where hate has no outlet and the only harm one can do is to oneself. Leaders of governments are not in the loop. Scientists have no answers. The military's hardware has stopped working. We're calling, but ET's not answering. Imagine a world transformed, but with no guidance and no hint of what's coming next. What would you do? How would you feel? What questions can you ask? What questions dare you ask? When the only possible answers come from the all-too-human face in your mirror. On the day of first contact, it won't be about them. It will be about us. Huh. All right. That's intriguing sounding. I'm not entirely sure what to make of it. The title has an ominous inflection to it. But this is listed as an October release, and it's not it's under 500 pages, so it's modest for a Steven Erikson book. But yeah, and apparently it's brand new, and it's not coming out from Tor or anybody else like that. Fascinating. All right, well, this would not be one to miss, I'm sure, for Steven Erikson fans. Rejoice, A Knife to the Heart in October. Yeah, that was legitimately a surprise, I don't mind saying. All right, here's a little thing from HarperCollins. And this is very nice to have. This is the finished copy in hardcover of We Are Where the Nightmares Go, which is a story collection by C. Robert Cargill, who wrote Sea of Rust, who is a screenwriter who worked on Doctor Strange and some other films. And so this comes out on the 12th of June, as I said, from Harper Voyager. These brief tales of horror showcase Cargill's fearsome talent, his skilled macabre wordcraft. There it is, Thomas. And his utterly approachable, accessible approach to commercial fiction. I wonder if the publicist wrote this in a hurry. Fans of the darker works of Neil Gaiman, Joe Hill, Christopher Moore, and Richard Kadrey will be thrilled by Cargill's We Are Where the Nightmares Go. These 10 tales are assembled as a testament to the writer's mastery of the phantasmagoric. This potent, hair-raising collection of unnerving horror and fantasy that resonate, linger, and promise to haunt readers' waking dreams. Well, there you go. If you want a bunch of scares in small doses from Robert Cargill, this is available on the 12th of June. And next up, I'm very happy to have this. This comes in from Orbit Books, and it is an arc for Rosewater, a novel by Tade Thompson. Now, this is actually a reissue. This is a book that was published actually a few years ago by Apex or something, a small press imprint, and it has now been picked up for re-release by Orbit. I don't know if Tade Thompson, who wrote The Murders of Molly Southbourne, which is a very, very good creepy novella I reviewed for Halloween last year. I don't know if he's done any revising to the original for this version of it. But like I said, this comes out, it says September 18th from Orbit Books. And look, there's actually a sell sheet in here, or at least a letter of some kind. Orbit almost never does that. That's cool. Let's see. It's Rosewater is the town that grew up around a mysterious alien biodome that landed in Nigeria. Rumors spread that the dome could heal even the worst illnesses and injuries. The ailing flock to it, to Rosewater, on each of its rare openings, but its powers are still a mystery, and few will speak of what happens to them on the inside of the biodome. Caro knows all too well about the dome's powers. It made him one of a handful of sensitives who can sense others' thoughts and histories. His criminal past forces him into a job as a spy for the government. But when other sensitives begin dying, he must defy his masters to search for the answer to what's really happening inside the dome. Okay then, in the tradition of Ann Leckie, N.K. Jemisin, Nnedi Okorafor, and Jeff Vandermeer. A thoughtful and thought-provoking speculative novel that addresses both our world as it is and our world as it might be. Oh, here it is, yes. First published in 2014 by Apex Publications. So this is a re-release, and it comes out on September the 18th. Let me know in the comments. Okay, next up we have a proper box. This comes from an outfit calling themselves Grim Oak Press. That's like 3 small press or independent publishing companies in a single mailbag, which is very unusual for me. So we will just see what we have. Okay, this is also a first for Mailbag Monday. This is the second time in this episode that I've had a book from a small press imprint written by a major author, best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, who's usually worked with a Big 5 imprint. This is a new book by Terry Brooks, the Shannara fellow who has just wrapped up, after 40 years, his Shannara saga. And let's see, this is called Street Freaks, so it's a different sort of a thing for him. And I wonder if, because this is a letter by Terry Brooks, I wonder if he owns this imprint. I wonder if this is him self-publishing for whatever reason. Let's see, Street Freaks is a story of a future in which the United States no longer exists in its present form. At its epicenter is Ash Collins, a boy whose comfortable life is turned upside down in minutes, forcing him to flee for his life. In the process of saving himself, he discovers the world of the Red Zone, a forbidden part of the city to which his father has sent him. There he will encounter some very different kinds of people, most of whom are considered discards and street trash by those who live elsewhere in the world because of who and what they are. For in this future, genetics and robotics have changed everything, and even the question of who is human and who is not is open to interpretation. A world of throwback street racing, of the tweeners and bots that comprise much of the population, of corporations and government entities intent on crushing dissent, and of a girl unlike anyone Ash has ever met. I'm not like other girls. Find him struggling to stay one step ahead of those who would hunt him down and terminate him. But there is more at stake than his life. The whole world is threatened by those who search for him, and for reasons he can only guess at, he seems to be the only one who can save it, because of course he is. All right, Terry Brooks has never been known in all these 40 years, as popular as he is, as a fount of original ideas, but who knows, there could be some energy to this book. He is at least trying something new for himself, this kind of dystopian SF. But let's see, October 2nd, it says, is the date for this. Street Freaks by Terry Brooks. How about that? Okay, we are jamming right along. Are you guys up for an intermission? I think I'm up for an intermission. Let's do that. Alrighty. A little thing from Random Penguin. Oh, awesome. Happy to have this. This is Raven Cry by Ed McDonald. It is the sequel to Black Wing. So happy to have that. This comes out on August the 21st from Ace Books, and it's the second book in the Raven's Mark series, continuing the story that began with the award-winning epic fantasy Black Wing. Okay, fans all over the world have been eager to find out what's in store for their favorite bounty hunter, Rialt Galharrow, and revisit his post-apocalyptic frontier world. Rialt Galharrow is a Black Wing, a bounty hunter who seeks out and turns over any man, woman, or child who has been compromised by the immortals known as the Deep Kings. 4 years have passed since he did everything that he did in the first book, and so now it's time for him to have new adventures. All right then, Raven Cry, available August the 21st. Very nice. Ed McDonald. And something else from the Hachette group. Hachette usually means orbit, but not always. But in this case, yes, it is orbit. This finally is the US release of Spellslinger by Sebastian D. Castell. This is a new series. You know, he wrote the Greatcoat series, very popular. This is a new series of which I think all 3 volumes at least have already been released in the UK. We're getting it a bit late over here. Sometimes that happens. But this, let's see, I don't actually have... Okay, what is the sell sheet? There's no sell sheet with this, but it says July 17th for the US edition. Purdy cover. Spellslinger, let's see. A would-be mage with no magic of his own has to defeat powerful enemies with only cunning and deception. It says Kellen is moments away from facing his first duel and proving his worth as a spellcaster. There's just one problem. His magic is fading. Facing exile unless he can pass the mage trials, Kellen is willing to risk everything, even his own life, in search of a way to restore his magic. But when the enigmatic Farius Parfax arrives in town, she challenges him to take a different path. The first novel in a compelling 6-book series. Wowzers. All right. Bursting with tricks, humor, and a whole new way to look at magic. Well, here you go. Let's see. And they're bringing them out. So like Shadow Black is the second one, comes out August. Charmcaster is in September, and Soulbinder is in October. So I guess that's accelerated release schedule to catch up with all you guys in the UK. And then I guess 2 more after that. But Spellslinger, available July 17th from Orbit Books. Only a few more envelopes to go. We're getting close to the end. Miraculously, my batteries have held out in the camera just fine. Let's hope they hold out a little bit longer. And this is a package from Random Penguin. Okay, this is interesting. This is something called Neverworld Wake. Comes out on the 5th of June, so very soon. And the author is Marisha Pessel. And you might recognize that name as the author of a book called Night Film, which was something of a bestseller a few years ago. This one is a YA, though, and looks kind of interesting. It says, once upon a time back at Darrow Harker School, Beatrice Hartley and her 5 best friends were the cool kids, the beautiful ones. Then the shocking death of Jim, their creative genius and Beatrice's boyfriend, changed everything. 1 year after graduation, Beatrice is returning to Wincroft, the seaside estate, where they spent so many nights sharing secrets, crushes, plans to change the world, hoping she'll get to the bottom of the dark questions gnawing at her about Jim's death. But as the night plays out in a haze of stilted jokes and unfathomable silence, Beatrice senses she's never going to know what really happened. Then, a mysterious man knocks at the door. Blithely, he announces the impossible. Time for them has become stuck, snagged on a splinter that can only be removed if the former friends make the harshest of decisions. A ticking clock in a timeless world, Beatrice now has one last shot at answers and at life. Interesting. Okay. Neverworld Wake. Marisha Pessel. Okay. Author of Night Film. This comes out on June the 5th. Something of a thriller about death for the YA crowd. Let me know in the comments. Getting to the bottom of the stack, big envelope from Random Penguin. Okay, rejoice, Harry Dresden fans. This is Briefcases. Good pun there. By Jim Butcher, and this is a new story collection of short stories about Harry Dresden, set in his universe. And I believe this comes out, well, this is going to be a June hardcover. Don't know exactly when in June, but it says, includes a never-before-published Dresden Files story. So that would seem to hint that some of these things, some of these have appeared apparently in anthologies. Like some of them have come from books like Dangerous Women, Shadowed Souls, Bloodlight 3, Aftertaste, these various themed anthologies that he has contributed stories to. He has now taken all of those stories, or quite a few of them, and he has put them together in one spot for Dresden fans to just have, and there is a new story in it. So Briefcases from Jim Butcher is a June hardcover from Ace Books. And next up, we have this arc from Del Rey Books. This is for a book called Relic. New book by Alan Dean Foster, veteran author, been doing it since forever, good lord. And this apparently is a brand new, standalone, not pertaining to any of his long-running existing series at all. There is no sell sheet. Why? Why is this becoming a trend? So, but it says here, August 14th is the date, and it says, The Last Known Human searches the galaxy for companionship in a new adventure novel. From Alan Dean Foster. Ruslan is the last surviving human being in the entire universe. Wow, that would suck. Saved by a species of friendly aliens, Ruslan is forced to live life as an artifact of history, paying a lonely homage to a once proud race that spanned the stars. Now, with the weight of his near-extinct species pressing down on him, Ruslan embarks on an epic journey of adventure, heartbreak, and danger. Okay, then. Well, Relic, that's what he is, from Alan Dean Foster in August from Del Rey Books. Next to last envelope. Come on, batteries, you can do it. Also from Random Penguin. Okay, cool. And I'm happy to see this. This is from Del Rey Books. It's The Memory of Fire by Callie Bates. And this is the second book following up on her earlier novel, The Waking Land, debut that came out last year, said to be the sort of thing for fans of Naomi Novik, what have you. Let me see what I can say about it. Oh, there is a sell sheet. Hallelujah. This one's buried in here, but I found it. Thank you. Such a good habit. I love that. Okay, June 5th. The Waking Land, number 2. Let's see. When noble sorcerer Johann Korakides first appeared in Callie Bates's debut, The Waking Land, he was a character in someone else's story, standing at Alana Valtai's side as she accepted her powers, woke the land, and led a rebellion against the kingdom to which she once gave her allegiance. Now, in The Memory of Fire, Johann's own story takes center stage as he returns to Pilatus in a desperate attempt to broker peace between Pilatus and the newly independent lands the Empire once controlled. Okay, so these are sprawling epic fantasy, as it were, but she's kind of given a lot of time to each of her characters, which I like. So, The Memory of Fire, gorgeous-looking book, available June the 5th from Del Rey. Very happy to see this. And finally, Random Penguin package. And we wrap up with something for the Mercedes Lackey fan. She has her fan base, been with her for years and years. The woman has written something like 4,603 books. And this is a new one, The Hills Have Spies. This is a new, yet another Valdemar series that is starting up, book 1 of The Family Spies, apparently. Spoofy Punish titles don't really do it much for me, but, whatever. They seem to be a thing. But it says, Mags, herald spy of Valdemar, and his wife Amelie, the king's own herald, are happily married with 3 children. The oldest, Justin, has the gift of animal mind speech. He can talk to animals and persuade them to act as he wishes. Justin's dream is to follow in his father's footsteps as a herald spy, but he has yet to be chosen. And then I assume that they have a various, okay, so there's some talking to animals in this, and they, you know, the family has adventures, as it were. So if you are a fan of the Valdemar books, I imagine that this will deliver pretty much what you expect from those. But The Hills Have Spies is a June hardcover from Doll Books by Mercedes Lackey. And there we have it. That is the massive epic post-Nebula Award Conference mailbag. So you know the drill. Light up those comments. Let me know which of these looks most interesting and exciting to you, which you would like to see me prioritize for review. And also, if you enjoyed watching, please leave a like, share the video far and wide with all of your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe. If you haven't done so, that's how the channel grows. We're getting close to 5,100. If you haven't watched that 5K Q&A video, go do it. It's pretty neat. Otherwise, you can support the channel at my TeePublic store and at my Patreon, where recruits into Wink's Army get little perks, like getting to see some of these videos a day early. I want to thank them for all of their additional support. If you want to be one of those supporters, it's only $2 a month. But I want to thank them and thank all of you for being amazing viewers and sticking with me through all of this nonsense. Okay, so until I see you all next time, happy reading.